Welcome into NFM TV. I'm your host, Greg Scher. It's a story of admiration, a story of courage, a story of an unbreakable bond between father and son. Roger Dennis is a branch manager at NFM Lending. His father, Roger Dennis Sr., served in Vietnam. He is the subject and recipient of our March NFM salute. What's your first memory, Roger, of when you realized that your dad was a hero, that he did serve?
I am eternally grateful to him and to anybody else that served like him. And I often think about the differences in my life as compared to his, when he was 19 and 20. I mean, I certainly was aware that my father was in the Army and served, but I feel like maybe indirectly, my dad did somewhat shield me from the nitty-gritty details. That he didn't share that with me until I was older, at least I remember it that way. I remember that I felt mature enough to be able to handle the details of a firefight story.
Take us back to when you were drafted. What do you remember about that?
Well, I was working on bridge construction, building bridges, concrete and steel, and one day I got the Valentine in the mail. That's what me and my friends called it, which was your draft notice. We pretty much knew when we got the draft notice that we're probably going to go to Vietnam.
You had the option to get out of the draft. Talk to us about that.
Because of many of my friends who had already gotten drafted and went, and because I had 4 brothers who were in before me, I felt like I couldn't live.
I couldn't live a normal life knowing that I didn't go.
What do you remember about your time in service?
I think it was the 3rd or 4th day that I was there. They called out my name and said that I was going to be sent to the 11th Armored Cavalry. But within a month and a half, Colonel Patton decided that the mortars were not being utilized properly. And then the officer of the mortars was also the FO, the forward observer, expert map reader. And when we left for the field in January, he needed a driver. And so they put pressure on me and I became a driver. He taught us also how to be expert map readers. So that if something happened and you needed to call in like air strikes around your position, helicopter strikes, artillery, that you learned how to do that. I learned how to do that.
What do you remember about the Vietnamese people?
The people wanted to be like we are. They wanted to be free. When we would ride down the road,
The little children would be begging for food. And we would throw them food. Many of them had become orphans because of the war.
In other words, you're throwing them food and then you could be, unfortunately, their parents could be victims of the war.
Yes.
The pain that you feel, how do you describe it?
Well, it would be people who you were very close to, and like one day they're gone. Happened right in front of you.
Can you tell me about what it was like to have seen what you saw in Vietnam, and a year later, you're having a child?
I was very looking forward to it. It's such a culture shock to come from the combat zone and then come back into civilization. Veterans Affairs at that time did not offer any kind of counseling to the soldiers returning. You were on your own. You try to fend for yourself.
We're going to take a look at some mementos from your service in Vietnam. I understand these are boots that you wore in the Vietnam War, and why'd you save these?
You know what, Greg? I mean, these are good and bad memories. I want to think that there's more good than bad. There's something that, when I'm gone, that my grandkids can see and be reminded. This is your Class A uniform that you're issued when you go into basic training. The most prominent medal you can get would be the Combat Infantry Medal, which is here at the top. And then this shows the different specialized training that you go through in the basic training and advanced infantry training. Well, when I was sent to Vietnam, I ended up at the 11th Armored Cavalry. And this hat came about when they were formed, before they were Armored Cavalry, when they were just the 11th Cavalry Horse Cavalry in 1901. I go to the wall, the Vietnam Veterans Wall, on Memorial Day, and, at the end of May, and also Veterans Day. And I would say probably half of the people from my outfit, 11th Armored Cavalry, will show up wearing these hats.
We actually have another pin for you. I don't know where you want to put this, but this is the NFM salute pin.
Oh, cool. I put that around the hat. Very cool.
You're one of us now.
We appreciate you opening up your home to NFM and to NFM TV, and for accepting the NFM salute for the month of March 2020. And on your behalf, we'll be making a $2,500 contribution to the Gary Sinise Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you so much.